My name is Bill Kurtzner. I'm one of the co-founders of Util Auditors as well as CostSavings.ai. And we have been in the cost containment consulting space, helping businesses to identify errors and inefficiencies in how they're billed across a myriad of areas of spend, everything from utilities like electricity, natural gas and water, sewer, to contracted services like waste removal, telecommunications and shipping, and into financial services like bank fees and merchant processing fees. So over the years, we've had the opportunity to work with companies that extend it to the Forbes and Fortune top 20. So we've worked with some of the largest organizations in the company with some very complex utility and service infrastructures, and we've now segued that into leveraging AI to try and help businesses of all sizes. So,
you share a little bit more about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at your company.
Yeah, so me and my business partner Chris Panucci founded Util Auditors back in 2000. We've been around for about 13 years. It's a really good mix of skill sets between the two of us. I largely am, I guess you would consider, the face of the company. I do a lot of the front end. So I deal with a lot of the networking relationships. I led the sales efforts, of course, initially, and then now lead the day-to-day operations on the sales front and business development side. My business partner, Chris, complements that very well. He does kind of all the behind-the-scenes stuff that makes sure everything keeps running smoothly. He's really brilliant with graphic design and does a lot of web work for us and keeps the operation running smoothly.
Bill, what does a typical day look like for you?
A lot of conference calls. But fortunately, we're able to do all of our work remotely. So because we are billing auditors, we're looking at things kind of from a paper perspective, digging into invoices and underlying contracts and identifying where there are issues and opportunities. And basically what we do is entirely remote. So we're not going into an office every day. We're just going over bills. And I do a lot of conference calls. Like I said, we'll have a lot of client introductory phone calls and then send out many proposals. And then, of course, I do attend a number of different networking events and conferences. So that's just kind of part of the gig, is sometimes traveling for those things.
What major shifts are you seeing, Bill, in sort of this auditing space in your industry right now?
Certainly, I think like most industries, the technological shifts with AI, accounting and numbers and computational AI being kind of one of the first AIs to, I think, really mature, and one of the areas in which AI really excels. We had some foresight to understand that it was definitely going to impact our industry.
So how has AI impacted your business and or growth strategy?
It's a good question. So I think there are kind of two sides to the coin, right? There are the business owners who know that they should be using AI in some sort of way. And most of them have matured to the point where they're having a conversation with AI as if it's like a chatbot, but they're not really sure where AI fits into their business to create improvement. And then that also applies to the consulting side, which is the space that we're in, the consulting as a service side, where we're trying to figure out how do we provide or apply AI for our customers in a way that makes us more effective as consultants. So there's kind of two different sides to the conversation. And I think part of the challenge is productizing AI so that we can leverage AI, but present it in a way that's familiar with how people have typically adopted other past technologies.
And can you expand upon that? What does that mean, adopting it to how it's familiar? But what does that actually look like when you're implementing it in your company?
So as mentioned, when you go on to ChatGPT and you're having a conversation with ChatGPT and you ask it a question, it's going to give you a whole bunch of text back, right? You can read through the response and it may be valuable information, but it's really not presented in a way that makes it easy to digest, right? So especially if you're asking it questions, like as consultants, we're asking it questions to analyze something, it's going to come back with a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of context. And it's not as easy to digest, for example, as if that were graphs or if that were an infographic, right? And so trying to present the information in a way that folks are familiar with, to see it, like, for example, in a dashboard instead of in a chatbot is much more useful. And so that when I say like productizing AI, it's really kind of putting it in a way that allowing people to leverage AI while putting it in a format that they're more familiar with.
What's working well for you right now in business, Bill, in 2026?
So what I love about your show, Kay, and one of the things that you guys talk about so much is community. When I started, before I got into cost containment, I was in the payments and banking space, and I kind of have never left. I've continued to consult, whether it's folks calling me looking for insight on different things or just my perspective on that market. Staying involved and staying in touch with the people in that community has positioned us with my new company, Cost Savings, to go back to that well. to maintain those relationships and be able to go back and say, listen, I think I have something that would work for you now, even though it might not have made sense before, I have something that might make sense for you now. And so I think maintaining those relationships and keeping keeping that community, if you will, close and being able to return to the folks that you did business with before is really important.
So yeah, that sounds all great. What's been frustrating in 2026?
I think there's a lot of noise. As you know, we are an AI enabled technology, and so there's a lot of those AI enabled technologies coming out. So to be able to, I think, set yourself apart in a way is probably a challenge, because you don't want to get lost in the mix with everything else that's coming out. The ability to create a complete application in a matter of minutes or days is really interesting. One of the frustrations that we had throughout 2024 and 2025, as we were trying to develop out our patented tech, was that we found that we were slowly able to start catching up and then pass our development teams. So we're spending money to pay developers to do things. And then as we're experimenting with AI ourselves, we're finding out that we're able to actually do them more quickly, and sometimes more to the way that we want them to be than working with an external team. So that's been kind of a frustration. It's not a bad thing. It's just that, if you started 4 or 5 years ago and spent a lot of money on development, it may be that whatever you developed 4 or 5 years ago and spent all that money on can now be developed for very low cost. One of the interesting things about technology is that it does allow us to scale in a different way. That's been one of the things that I think has been probably the most exciting. That with Util Auditors on the consulting side, you can only consult so many people because you're only so many people yourself, right? You only have so many resources that are adept at what you do as a consultant or a business owner. So the technology kind of enables you to input your knowledge into this technology and be able to allow it to help other people in much the same way you would. So I think it's a really interesting opportunity with AI-enabled tech.
But I'm curious, what is your North Star metric in your company?
So right now, based on the transition that we made from being a consulting company that was working with enterprise businesses to now trying to expand our market to work with SMBs, I think our goal is really to help as many small, medium business owners as we possibly can. I know that sounds like an infinite North Star, if you will, but SMBs have never been able to take advantage of cost containment consulting because unfortunately they don't spend enough to really warrant the attention of a specialist. It's the same reason that a little company wouldn't have an energy manager or a logistics manager, right? There's one person who wears all of those hats, and they don't have a lot of time to focus on all the things. It makes it very difficult, and it makes it kind of a competitive disadvantage for them not to be able to identify those same opportunities that a big company would. And that's why their margins are healthier and all of those things. I think our goal would be to just try and help as many small, medium business owners as we can. There's a lot of things. There are rate, tax, and tariff structures that differentiate for things like energy. There are underlying programs, benefits, incentives, statutory guidelines, things like sales tax exemptions, et cetera, industry dependent, geographically dependent. So there are a lot of nuances to how you can be billed for these services. And that's where specialists like what we do at Util Auditors, that's where we come in and provide recommendations and insight on all those little things. And again, it's one of those things where at scale, a lot of large businesses will rubber stamp invoices. So they get 1,000 electricity bills in a month. They pay all 1,000 through the accounting department because all 1,000 sites have to have electricity, but they don't really look into the details of the billing. You kind of hear that age-old adage that you could get nickeled and dimed to death, right? And so we try to help pick up those nickels and dimes and give them back to the businesses that we serve.
That's so interesting. And on average, how much cost savings are you giving to a company?
It really depends on the area of spend. So we talked a little bit about energy, like utilities, electricity, natural gas, water, sewer. Most of those are regulated to where their public rate structures are published. So on those types of opportunities, you're usually looking at single digit savings or returns. But the areas where we really excel are the ones that have what we call discretionary margin. These are areas where somebody's sitting on the other side of the desk from you and they're selling you a bill of goods, and their job is to retain as much margin as is possible. And your job in negotiating for your business is to try to get their costs as low as possible, right? So these people are very good at retaining discretionary margin. And the difficulty when you're negotiating is you don't understand what their cost of goods is, right? So you don't know what it costs them to throw your trash away or what it costs them to deliver telephone service to your facility. You don't know what your neighbor's paying for the same. So that type of insight those are the types of things that we have that we try to bring to light for our clients. We understand the true underlying cost of service from the provider perspective and what opportunities there are to wipe away some of that discretionary margin.
I know you're sort of bringing in cost savings, which is a AI productized version of the consulting work that you've been doing for the past decade plus. Where do you want to be in 6 or 12 months from now?
So I really think that we have some very strong partnerships in going to market. I'd like to really focus over the next 6 to 12 months on making sure that those initial partnerships are very successful. If we could board 100,000 businesses over the next 6 to 12 months, I think that would look like a success for us. We've of course got our eye on some of the larger organizations. Eventually, you've got the QuickBooks out there that have 20 something million small businesses, and would love to grow or partner with an organization like that eventually. But I think short term, we're just looking to get in front of as many small businesses as we can and make it a success for us and our partners.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And who are you typically partnering with in case somebody may be listening and saying, hey, that's me?
Yeah. So our initial partnerships are with payment processing organizations. We decided that, no matter how big your business is, large or small, businesses need to take credit cards. So we figured what a great path to reach small business owners that probably haven't heard of or may be able to take advantage of what it is that we're doing than to go to them via a warm relationship with somebody who's providing them with the necessary service already.
Yeah, absolutely. Great strategy. And do you have any certain sector or industry of small businesses that you're wanting to target in the beginning, or is it like service-based or plumbing contractors?
Not really. One of the unique things about cost savings is we're not just helping businesses, and it goes back to Kay. We talk about community. We're actually providing a savings platform for all of their employees as well. Yeah. So we're trying to reach business. Our solution has value for a business of any size, essentially, because we don't just save the business money; we save all of their employees money too. So no specific verb. We're industry agnostic.
If you had a magic wand to fix just one thing in your business that's holding you back or slowing you down from sort of achieving your growth goals, what would that one thing be?
That's a good question. So I think it would probably be that I wish technology would freeze for a minute. I know it's not going to happen, but with the speed at which AI innovations continue to accelerate, it's one of those things where I think we're going to be in a constantly evolving hamster wheel. It used to be you develop technology and you had like this moat where, for a period of time, it's going to take somebody, 2 years to develop this platform out that I just built. But you don't really have that anymore, right? So you develop something and it's obsolete by, next month. And you're like, wow, well, we really need to rethink about how we structure this because, we've got another way to do this that's better or faster or less expensive so it's a challenge. Like I said, if anything, I wish I could just have it pause for a little while we get ahead. And so, it's got to be a challenge if you invested all that time over the course of a lifetime to have a technology come in and essentially enable people to do what it is that you learned how to do over that span.
What advice do you have for future entrepreneurs or folks kind of looking to get into entrepreneurship?
I think you have to be very resilient. You can never give up. One of my favorite quotes is triumph is often nearest when defeat seems inescapable. When you feel like your back's to the wall and all else is going to fail, you're probably closer than you think to getting over that hump and getting the next win. You do have to have a certain degree of confidence. You have to really believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing. Obviously, if you're not passionate about what you do, then it's very hard for somebody else to get passionate about it as well. So I think that's a key cornerstone of being an entrepreneur. Believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing. And again, you have to be adaptable, especially as we're talking about with the speed at which technology is developing now. I really think that's probably a really key character trait.
And if there's anybody in the audience, sort of either a small business owner or somebody at a payment processing platform that's like, hey, I'm interested in learning more and maybe we can partner together, or just interested a little bit about your product and services, what's the best way to contact you, Bill?
Yeah, you can reach out at Bill at CostSavings.com, or Bill at Util Auditors.com. It's UTILAUDITORS.com.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being on the show and sharing your journey. I think it's fabulous. So thanks again, Bill, for being on the show and sharing your insights.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.